It's playoff time, so we've got a ton to talk about. We don't always have enough time to get it all in, so we figured we'd all just hang out. I'm David Goss. You're Bobby Warshaw. You're Matt Doyle. There are no rules to this, so I can change everyone's names. We're at the AT&T MLS studios.
That's a rule.
Does that rule apply to this?
The only rule is there are no rules.
Okay.
Makes rules really hard, doesn't
David.
it? Yeah, I'm a rules guy.
Okay.
I've been trained.
Are you
very well
are
over
you a
the last few
playoffs
years.
guy?
I am a huge playoff guy. I think
Super.
this, format-wise, let's start out here, just real quick. I think it's awesome that we have the international break to talk about every team rather than when it was the semifinals or finals where there's only like 4 teams left and you're kind of just re-breaking down those things. So, Bobby, we want to talk more about these games. What game would you like to start with?
Let's do Philadelphia Red Bulls first.
Okay.
Matt, if you are Jim Curtin, how would you start this game? And the tee up there is it the diamond or the 4-2-3-1?
It's the 4-2-3-1. And I just love what they were able to do for that little stretch with Medunjanin, Bedoya, and Montero as that central midfield trio. Bedoya is supposed to be healthy for this game. Curtin has come out and said he's going to be back. Kasper Shibilko is going to be back as well. If that's the case, then you have you have plenty of data points that playing those 3 guys in central midfield together, and then Shibilko up top, and then any 2 of your wingers creates chances. And Shibilko has done a good job of finishing them off this year. And I think that coming into this game, it's more important to have those 3 guys in central midfield together to dictate the game, first of all, with Medunjanin's passing, and second of all, with Montero and Bedoya doing their work off the ball and their defensive work. Like, you just destroy anything the team you're facing is trying to do. And with the Red Bulls, what they're trying to do is win 50-50 balls.
So my counter to that is, where are the 50-50 balls that the Red Bulls play most important? I'm trying to tee up a question that basically says, don't you want more numbers in the middle of the field against Red Bulls to compete for those 50-50 balls?
Yeah. But what the Union have shown is that they can compete for those 50-50 balls with that trio, but still actually create. They can be the smash you in the face team, but also the team that breaks you down with the ball.
I think that I would start this game in the diamond to get those numbers, right? Medunjanin, Bedoya, Montero with Aronson in front of them. Aronson not to the left. And we could probably have a whole nother 20-minute conversation about whether it should be Aronson or Marco Fabian in a big playoff single elimination game. But I would start the game with those 4, probably with Pico and Shibilko up top. And then at the 60-minute mark, the way they did for the first, I don't know the exact number, 25 games through the year, then you go to the 4-2-3-1, you bring Ilsinho on, but basically survive those first 65. Just go toe-to-toe. And then once the game opens up a little bit, you go to your finishing. Really, I don't disagree they haven't been better in the 4-2-3-1, but I just wonder if they can be better for 90 minutes and if they should just harness all of that marginal gain that it offers and save it for the last 30 when Ilsinho comes on. So you bring on your super sub and you change the shape to provide a new look.
I mean, I worry about this team I worry about saying the let's survive part. Because you think that they get comfortable as they move into this game? You don't think that it's the opposite where it's the pressure gets higher as it's 0-0 longer and longer? For Philadelphia, as a home team, as a team that's never won a postseason game, let's say you're looking at this starting lineup and you've got Mark McKenzie and Brandon Aronson in the starting lineup, guys who have never been there. Kai Wagner, who's never been there in MLS. I worry that actually is a worse way to go about it because you end up with now you've got 30 minutes where you need to score at home. Otherwise, you're looking at PKs and extra time for a group that's never won a postseason game before. So rather than come out and say, let's survive the first 30 or 35 minutes, it's come out and let's control the game and let's get a goal earlier.
For sure. Survive might have been the wrong word. I think it's more the tone I would use if I were Jim Curtin would be closer to survive than control. I can tell you that much. I mean, it would be go kill. It wouldn't be go control or dominate the game, right? That's where I would be trying to get my players' heads going in. And I just think over those 60 minutes, you have a better chance of actually surviving plus controlling the game through the diamond. Because the worst thing that can happen Philly in this game is they get run over. They get made uncomfortable by the intensity and the pace that the Red Bulls get the game to. And that's it. That's literally the only thing that matters in this game for them.
But isn't a lot of that have to do with Kamar Lawrence? And if you play the diamond, then you're just inviting Lawrence to come
for sure.
way upfield, and suddenly you're getting enveloped by that Red Bulls press. Whereas if you actually put a winger out there, he has to honor that. He has to be like, okay, well, this guy, if I go way far up and we lose the 50-50, he's already in behind.
And that's
Do you
where
actually think Armas is going to press that high?
I don't think they have a chance if they don't.
Yeah, in the
But
first.
do you still think he will?
Yeah.
Okay.
So my counter to that is Belgium, Brazil. Belgium comes out in the 4-4-2, and it's Kevin De Bruyne as a center striker, false nine, tip of the diamond, whatever you want to call it, and Lukaku split right, which is where Fafa Picault comes into this. He can play center striker, but he can play a de facto right winger. So he presses. Because remember, when they press anyway, in that 4-4-2 diamond in the air, they basically pinched outward in. It wasn't too traditional center push wide. It was outward in. So he's already somewhere in that vicinity. So you can have him as a de facto striker, but he essentially plays as this counter-attacking right winger, which then could hopefully keep Kamar Lawrence honest offensively and defensively. That's my counter to that point.
So what do you do if you're the Red Bulls?
That's a hard question for me because I would have gone to the 3-3-3-1 earlier.
They haven't used it hardly at all this year.
Yeah.
No, not since. They used it for a couple games, but it was also when Amar Tarak was maybe their best player.
Right.
So that was a somewhat different situation. Man, going into this game, I don't have a great answer. You know, I don't know what I would do other than the expected. The big question would be Sean Davis, right? Isn't that the only variable? Isn't everything set with Kyle Duncan,
Well, it's where
Lawrence, Long, and Parker?
No.
we don't know Duncan's healthy because he came off injured against
Okay,
Montreal.
that's fair. So
He's got that history. Yeah.
Yeah. The other one is where Szatkowski plays, right?
But
you're saying that's based on Sean Davis.
Well, at
If
this
Davis is in, Szatkowski plays high on the wing.
But at this point, it's Brian White, lock starter number 9. Daniel Royer, lock starter on the left. Josh Sims seems to be a lock starter at right wing. Those three, we don't see them changing.
You think that Kaku doesn't start and Szatkowski would start at 10?
Well, that's what I'm getting to. And then it seems like Kaku is the lock at 10. It seems like Szatkowski is a lock starter in this team. Whether you disagree, and Matt disagrees.
I don't know if I disagree that he is a lock starter. I disagree that he should be.
But he is. So at that
I
point,
thought you were a fan of him.
So that point, it seems like the only variable here is Caceres Jr. or Sean Davis.
See,
Right?
I think I think Caceres Jr. is a lock.
A lock.
I think it's Szatkowski, but if Davis starts, it's Szatkowski in place of Sims. I don't think Sims is a lock yet.
Okay, and then you bring him on to change the game.
Probably.
That's
Yeah.
fair. You just have to.
Which, by the way, I hate having Szatkowski as that wide guy.
Yeah, I would put Kaku there for sure.
Yeah.
I think which is what they would do. It would be Kaku right and Szatkowski in the middle, no?
We've seen it both ways this year, throughout the year. We've seen them trust Szatkowski in that spot, whether it's because they're trying to be a bit more conservative or because they believe that his ability to connect could still lead to that little run into the right side of the box for Brian White for the pullback to Royer.
I struggle to talk about Red Bulls because, and we talk about this all year, the only variable that matters is their hunting level and their level of intensity. And they haven't either, for whatever reason, because it's a few years in and players are tired or players sign new contracts or Chris Armas asked them not to, there have been big swings between whether they press at the 100% we've seen when they're at their best in the last 3 years and when they haven't. And I'm not sure there's a variable that matters other than that's worth discussing. Is there? Because I have another point to make. If
I think No, go ahead.
Well, my only point is that the one thing to keep an eye on, and Leipzig have done it. I'm not sure if Salzburg have done it, but Leipzig and New York have both done it points this year. And it's a new pressing scheme that I'm not sure I've seen in the past. And if we generally think about pressing, you think about maybe two center strikers going straight to the center backs, or a center striker splitting the center backs and pushing them one way. What they have done is have a center striker go to one center back. The attacking mid, who would often be the other one, go to a center back, actually stays in the defensive mid, and they rotate that left-sided player into the other center back. Leipzig uses Emil Forsberg for it. Red Bulls, in the game that they did it was Bezikor, which makes sense to me against this Philadelphia team to put the ball to Jack Elliott,
Instead
even
of
more
the long switch.
even more so to Ray Gaddis, that you tempt them into this idea that Jack Elliott or Ray Gaddis have a moment of time on the ball, and you do this rotation where even if you watch film, you're not used to seeing it come. So that's what I'll be looking for in this game, is whether Red Bulls use this pressing rotation and whether it turns into a big turnover with Ray Gaddis or Jack Elliott.
Do you want to move to the next series?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is Atlanta or Toronto? Those are the better teams.
Let's do Atlanta.
We want to do Atlanta first.
Yeah.
Who would like to begin?
So something I've wrote about a bunch, something that we've seen a little bit down the stretch, I think really starting with Columbus in August, is just like as soon as you get the ball against this Atlanta team, you just play the long diagonal to your right winger in behind Justin Miram, and you make Leandro Gonzalez-Perez come out and defend in space. And the Revs did that a little bit last week, though they were actually going more right to left. They were going down the other wing. Is this it? Like Atlanta have not looked good defensively against this.
And the weird part of it
months.
is you hope that LGP is off that day. LGP is strangely now under the Francisco Calvo category of
I don't think it's strange, by the way.
over the last 3 years that he's trended that way.
I just think when you look at a center back, sometimes we get overwhelmed by talent, and it's not consistency.
For sure.
Those aren't the same thing.
And I've said
I
this,
think he's always been super talented.
yeah. I've said before that I think if you're talking about overall talent, passing ability, reading the game, that if he plays at his best, and this is where it becomes infuriating, LGP is the most talented all around of the buckets of attributes center back in the league.
Probably right now, yeah.
Which becomes infuriating because he doesn't always play like that. And which is why I say he's more talented than Calvo, but it's in that weird, some days he just decides not to play.
So two of the things that I find interesting with Atlanta is, one, I don't like Brad Guzan coming off his line, and he's very hesitant to do it. If you can get their line high enough, that's what the Revs hit them with in the first 30 seconds of the last game. And then after that, he was a lot quicker off his line. It'll be interesting to see if the Revs try and start the same way again and be like, are you going to play this way? Because that's not how Brad Guzan plays. And that's not, it's been one of the reasons Miles Robinson's had to be so good, because that ball over the top, he has to turn and chase someone down on, rather than Guzan coming out easily and grabbing that ball. And then the other one is Pinilla, because Pinilla is going to be the one that hangs the widest. And you mentioned it's on the left side. But then if Teal Bunbury comes over there, it becomes an overload, especially if Miles Robinson's not in. And then you've got three center backs, basically all three playing out of position. That's the interesting spot to me, is because Jaleel Alibaba won't get up the field, but can they still find ways?
And he shouldn't.
But can he at least clip that ball over over Julian Gressel to get it into Pinilla and Bunbury to allow them to attack with numbers down that wing? That's what's interesting to me.
What are the odds that Bruce does something funky? That Bruce goes 2002.
Yeah. Everybody forgets this about Bruce. Like, he's known as like a straight up 4-4-2, play it the same way and obviously he's changed that with the Revs this year. But if you think back to that 2002 game against Mexico, nobody saw the U.S. coming out in a 3-5-2 in that game.
Yeah.
And it was huge, and it threw Mexico off. It was, Mexico made a sub within 20 minutes.
What was the sub? I don't remember the sub.
It was an attacking left winger came off for, I don't remember whether it was another striker.
We can look it up later.
Yeah. But it was shocking to me to see that happen. I don't know if Bruce will do that this time, because honestly, I look at the Revs and I think they have Atlanta United's not going to change. Frank de Boer is too stubborn. So, like, if I'm the Revs, I'm saying I'm totally okay with sitting back, absorbing, and they give me that space to hit those balls into, because I'll get 3 chances off of that. Yep. And maybe if it's a good day, I'll finish 2 of them. And if we're scoring 2 goals on the road, maybe we're going to the next round.
The one thing with the Revs is, like, what type of creativity can he have? It seems like he's kind of been beaten into Brandon Bye's going to get up the field, so I need to play a safe option in Jaleel Alibaba. Really, the only question mark I think left is center mid.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask.
Between Zahibo, Caicedo, and then potentially Juan Agudelo. Or unless you want to pull heel deeper.
Well, there's an interesting
do.
one thing we have talked about. I'm trying to think what we said publicly and what we just talked about in text and Slack is the number 10 space disappeared for.
Is our text chain not just public? I thought it was just projected in Times Square.
We could monetize
Yeah,
that,
but what would basically the number 10 position disappeared for 5 or 6 years, right? The 4-2-3-1 made the idea that you could get the ball in between the lines and pockets go away from the world. You would all of a sudden we had inverted players tucking in, we had strikers coming back to try and create something new. It feels like we're at a point because teams press high, but also just because we see teams sacrifice their center striker to stretch the field. This is all to say that space is back, it feels like, around the world. Whether it's Liverpool having playing the way they played against Leicester with the 2 players off the one, we're seeing 2 attacking midfielders behind a striker. NYCFC do it, and Atlanta do it. I bring this up because when you play against Atlanta, just like when you play against NYCFC, they look for that spot, making the defensive midfielders more important. That was a really roundabout way of saying, yes, the defensive midfielder is the most important selection for Bruce.
And the other thing is Zahiba just doesn't track runs well.
Yeah.
He just doesn't follow guys into the box. And with Atlanta...
He chases butterflies, man.
Yeah.
Like, he's the flightiest player in the league. And I'm stunned. I'm stunned that he's a right-in-pen starter.
But who else?
Yeah.
The question is, so going back to the point, if you want a defensive player, because you have to blow up that part of the field, Luis Caicedo is in.
Yeah.
Is it Scott Caldwell? Is it Juan Agudelo? Is it Diego Fagundes? None of them pop out the page as, we need a second player in that fortress.
I mean, to me, it's Caldwell, because Caldwell is he's not a game changer in any way, but the Revs don't need to win the game right there. They just need to not lose it.
Yeah.
Caicedo and Caldwell is, like, to me, that's a no-brainer. But Bruce likes, from what I've been told, Bruce likes Zahibo there just because it's a physical presence. Mm-hmm. And, like, yeah, if he remembers to make the challenge.
Yeah. He has the physicality, whether he uses the physicality
Yeah.
are 2 different parts.
One more that I don't know if this is a real thing. I don't know if they were resting Eric Rometty, yellow cards accumulation, or if there's actual question mark between him and Jeff Laurentowicz right now. Do you think there is? Or it's Rometty 100% going into this playoff game?
Didn't Rometty pick up a knock about a month ago, and so maybe they're just easing him back. And again, Atlanta played 5 games in 15 days in the middle or the second half of September. So I don't think it's unusual to see guys get rested, whether it's PT, in that 2 line, or whether it's Rometty back at defensive midfield. I would be surprised if it's anything but Rometty and Nagby deep in central midfield. I really would.
Would you, Matt Doyle, start Emerson Hyndman in this game?
I don't think so. He's a nice little player, and he's responsible, and he's clever, but he's not a game changer.
No.
You just go for it. You go Joseph with PT and Barco behind him.
Yeah. Yep. And maybe that changes after one game, but like whether it's Hyndman or PT or Barco, Atlanta are at home against a team that's like, the Revs aren't great. Mm-hmm. You have to be able to win this game no matter who's out there.
Toronto, DC, we ready?
Go to Bobby.
Yeah,
Bobby?
I'll do this one first.
You want to start?
Yeah, give me a weird question.
Give you a weird question.
Yeah, don't just ask me.
Okay, if Toronto was located in Guatemala, would they still have a home field advantage against DC United in the first round of the MLS playoffs? That was the weirdest question.
Yes.
Okay, on that note, you can continue. Do you want me to? Okay. Is Omar Gonzalez and Chris Mavinga the worst center back pairing in the first round of the MLS playoffs?
Oh, great question. Great question. Because later in this week, I have my spine rankings coming out.
Whoa!
This is
tingling.
So the idea here is that
Clickbait.
if you go back through, yeah, nothing says clickbait. Like, let's so the idea is if you go back through and you look at the spines of recent MLS Cup champions, and the spine being the middle of the field, goalkeeper, center back, defensive midfielder, that the last 5, and we say the last 5 relative because it's the TAM era, right? It's kind of a new era in soccer. The top 5 have all had elite spines. 2018 was Guzan, Parkhurst, LGP, Darlington, Nagby, Joseph, Almiron, right? 2017, Toronto, Drew Moore, Chris Mavinga, Michael Bradley, Jovinko, Josie.
Victor Vasquez.
I don't think he was a spine
got
player.
it. Okay.
16, Stephen Fry, Chad Marshall, Ozzy, and Ladero. 15, Nat Borchers and Liam Ridgewell, Diego Chara, Diego Valeri. That year, maybe you add Fernando Audi or not, but you get the idea. So this idea of center backs is really important because throughout the history, even going back to, I think, 2007, if you don't have either just an elite player or just a domestic winner, you can pretty much rule it out. This is to say, I do trust Chris. I don't know if I trust. Omar Gonzalez and Chris Mavinga are still in the top half of the playoffs on talent, on overall ability. If they play well, they can carry their team to MLS Cup. The inconsistency is concerning, and I don't know. There's certain topics in Major League Soccer I don't know how to answer. Toronto's inconsistency is one of them.
Do you let the record answer it? 7-1-6 with Omar in the lineup. Only one loss in 14 games in the regular season with Omar out there. And it should have been a better record than that. There was the Westberg Howler against New England.
Which has to be included in the spine conversation.
Yeah, for sure. But I think Westberg has been pretty good this year. There was the mistake from Mavinga against LAFC, but if you go look back at that game against LAFC, Toronto for 45 minutes were the better team. And there aren't a lot of teams in MLS who could look at a game against LAFC this year and say, we were the better team for an entire half. Not even the Galaxy can say that. I still have the same concerns that Bobby does, but I'm wondering if I'm getting so lost in the granular sort of minutia of, ooh, that doesn't look good. Oh, when the right back overlaps, it puts Omar in a position where he has to defend 1v1. He's not great at that. Worrying so much about that I'm missing out on the big picture, which is, again, they have one loss with Omar Gonzalez in the lineup.
But to your point, and I think we've all felt this way, it hasn't passed the eye test.
Not always.
When you watch it, and this goes to like talent and consistency, it doesn't. I don't walk into this game and say they're not going to give up a stupid chance. They're not going to give up a silly chance. Like they will 100% keep this team clean, and they just need someone to create opportunities. You don't feel that way, even against DC,
right,
who has nothing, because you know Ola's going to run the back line. You know he's going to be around them the whole time for any mistake Mavinga makes to pick up on that. And then at times, you know they're going to have to make a decision who steps to Rooney, who follows Rooney into midfield. And when they do that, you've got Chris Mavinga marking in space or Omar Gonzalez marking in space.
I don't worry about possession as much as transition. I get what you're saying, but the number of times DC United's going to be in their offensive set and the attacking phase of the game, I suspect this could be a game where it's 75-25 possession, and Ben Olsen and DC are fine with that.
Yeah.
Is there a count? Is that not true?
No, it's absolutely true.
I'd be more worried about transitions. To go back to Matt's point, because this happens 5 times a year, where a team goes on a win streak or a lose streak, and we talk about the team. Just go back to
San Jose might be the best team in 2019. Sorry.
And they beat some good teams in there.
I agree.
But going back to Toronto, since they beat Atlanta in June, and I didn't know this, I was just... They've beaten Montreal twice. They've beaten Cincinnati. They've beaten Cincinnati twice, Columbus, New England, or not New England, Chicago and Columbus.
Yeah.
Colorado and Columbus.
Yeah.
The idea is they don't exactly have many marquee wins in there. They've tied Red Bulls. They've tied
LAFC.
New England. They've tied LAFC. They've tied Orlando.
They tied at NYCFC, but they beat the hell out of
They did.
NYCFC.
The NYCFC fans would want to say Maxi wasn't there. Okay. This is all to say I have absolutely no idea what idea to make of Toronto. I find it very frustrating, but that's my final conclusion.
So if you were to look at it, just draw it out on a piece of paper, though, and you look at the level of talent that they have, and this all assumes that Josie Altidore is healthy. Mm-hmm. The level of talent that they have, the level of playoff experience that they have, isn't this the quintessential, it's a veteran team, just waiting for it, and they're getting tuned up for October. October's here now. They're ready to go into playoff mode.
Yeah.
If Josie is healthy, there's a pretty good chance in their Eastern Conference Finals.
Yep.
If he's not healthy, is it Patrick Mullins? Is it Pozuelo false 10? False 9?
I think it's Mullins, and I think that it's one and done.
Yeah.
Mullins had that great run in 2016, and I thought he was going to be able to be more than that, but he's had chances, and he just hasn't done it. He's not a playoff striker.
It would be really interesting if they do that. I mean, they could get weird with that lineup.
Well, you could even go like Endo false 9.
They played Pozuelo false 9 for 2 games when they were missing all the players to Gold Cup, and it worked out pretty well.
Yeah.
They could play Gallardo. They could do a bunch of strange things. But Mullins seems like the best bet.
Besides talking about why Tsubasa Endo might be the most important player in the MLS playoffs,
redo that.
Sorry,
redo that sentence.
The Audi 2019 MLS Cup Playoffs. What comes to mind first when you think of this DC team? Is there any question marks? Is there anything interesting?
Clearances.
Yeah.
Wait, what'd you say?
Headed clearances.
Is there anything that comes? Matt, do you have anything else that comes to mind?
Just disappointment, because we saw what this team was like last year, and even though they lost in that that playoff game against Columbus. They were so much fun. They were so much fun down the stretch last year. They were so much fun in that 120 minutes, and they brought almost everyone back, and it should have worked. And for about a month, it looked like it was going to work, and then it stopped working. And it stopped working to an extent now where they're not even trying it anymore. They're just like, this is just pure brutalize whoever you're playing against. Don't give up anything cheap and try to snag one on a stat piece or something wonderful from Wayne Rooney. It's not even Wayne Rooney or Lucho Acosta. Lucho Acosta's not going to play this game.
Yeah. Anything for you, Bobby, that pops out?
No. We got to get out of the studio anyway.
Yeah, there's been a little additional time. We've had fun. Thanks, guys. Bobby, is there anything you want to say to close?
Well done.
See you later.